Kendell Lenice, and welcome to Kendell Lenice Live, right here on YouTube. Before we get started with this amazing show, I want you to do me a favor and subscribe below, like and share. Don't be selfish, share this with your people. But first and foremost, please subscribe. It's very important. Again, this is Kendell Lenice Live, and I have a great show lined up for you today. I have the pleasure of having Rah L.Johnson. So let me just read everything to you. I'm going to read her amazing bio, and then I'm going to bring her on. And I was looking at her bio, and I said, there's nothing that I can leave out because she's amazing and her story is amazing. But I know this young lady, and I'm just so proud of her. When I read her bio, I said, you did all that? I've known her since she was a teenager, and to see her at 40 plus, well, first, she doesn't even look a day over 30, but she is a grown woman. Let's be clear, she is fully grown, and I'm very proud of her accomplishments. And I wanted to spotlight her on Kendell Lenice Live. So, conceived by multidisciplinary artist Rah L.Johnson, Analog Art NYC is the culmination of a lifelong artistic journey. Having received a scholarship at the age of 8 to Saturday art classes at Carnegie Museum of Art in her hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Rah attended these classes until moving to New Jersey at the age of 13, when visual art took a backseat to sports. She later landed an academic scholarship to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, otherwise known, y'all know, as F.I.T, where her love of art and design began to thrive again. After receiving her degree at F.I.T, Johnson went on to work in various creative fields with over 10 years as a wardrobe professional for film, as a teaching artist, and several as a visual display artist. Designing and fabricating window and in-store displays for retail companies. This is her current role for a popular toy company. She is also the creator of PROUD, which stands for Project Under the Divas for Social Justice program, supporting art and design initiatives for her community. Throughout her career, Johnson never neglected her personal work as a visual artist and has been featured in several group art exhibits in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, and New York City. She is also the founder of Analog Arts NYC. That's Rah Johnson. I want to welcome you to Kendell Lenice Live. You did so many amazing things. I was getting all tongue-tied.
Thank you. So
you know, I'm like holding my phone like this, so I'm like, yo, I can read for real, but I'm trying to hold it a certain way where you just don't see the top of my head. So I'm trying to be strategic with this thing. This is live and it's virtual, so I don't have my
teleprompter.
My teleprompter up. I have one on my phone, but I got to figure out how I can use it for this platform, and then we're gonna be good. But welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So I'm so excited to have you, as I said in the beginning, and what amazing things you've done in your career. Like, do you ever stop and think like, wow, I did that? Like, I really did some amazing things in the most humble way.
I actually do sometimes, because there were a lot of times where like things might not have been going so great, where I'm like, I'm not doing what I want to do. But when I look back, I'm like, I did more by the time I was 25 than a lot of people even try. So when I look back, I'm like, wow, I really did those things. But like, my current job is one of my favorite jobs ever. And just some of the stuff I'm doing with that, I'm like, wow, that you did that. Sorry, excuse my language.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I can think that, because I feel like it's not really me. Like, some of the stuff I do, it's like, it just comes out however it comes out, and that's God kind of working through me. So that's how I feel about it. So I gotta take pride in that because there's another, force working in me.
Absolutely. And you're in New York now, right?
I'm what?
You're in New York.
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn.
Okay, so just as you know, of course, I have to mention quarantine and what's happening in our world today, because New York has been hit hard.
Yeah, it's bad. I've never seen New York like this, but when I go, because I have traveled outside of the city, so I go to Greyhound Station in Times Square, and I've never seen anything like it. In 23 years I've been in New York, but like it does kind of remind me of like when I moved to New York, 90s Times Square. You could go there sometimes and it was pretty empty because there weren't all the attractions. There weren't all the attractions that there were like sex shops, and they were just starting to build some of the restaurants, and it was like in the middle where before that it was seedy as hell, and like it was prostitutes and whatever going on there. By the time I came, it felt like it was transitioning, and they had like the adult arcades and fun things to do down there. So I would spend time down there, but it wasn't what it is now, for sure. So yeah.
And that's a good point. That's a good point, because I'm trying to think. In 93, I was living on the West Coast, and I came back over to the East Coast in 94. And I don't think I go to New York, pretty regularly. Well, not now, but I just remember it being the way it is. I don't even remember it being different. So I'm glad that you put that in perspective, because you're absolutely right.
Back then I met prostitutes. Like I would be going to catch the Greyhound, and I'd go outside to smoke a cigarette, and like had a whole conversation with a young pimp and one of his prostitutes, and it was just random. Like it was really random down there. I'm sure there's still stuff going on, but like,
I'm sure.
You have so much attraction. Like I had a film job that I quit because the pickup time was 5 o'clock in the morning for like a 7 o'clock call time upstate somewhere. And the pickup was in Times Square, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning. It looked like it does now. Like there was no one on the street except the homeless people and like whoever was out there. And I just didn't feel comfortable. They were like going to be an hour late or something, and they told me the wrong call time. I'm like, I'm not standing here for an hour. This isn't going to happen. So it's still pretty seedy down there, but like during the day it's full of tourists, so it's a different vibe,
Yeah.
So
I was just there last year for my daughter's 20th birthday. She turned 21 this year. So it was her 20th birthday, and we stayed for the weekend. And we go pretty regularly to New York, whether it's Times Square, Harlem. I've taken some pictures there. Just wherever. But we're in New York, mainly in Times Square. A lot of times we'll just do the tourist thing or go to a Broadway show and then come on back to Maryland, where I live. But I saw pictures of New York and Times Square particularly, and I was floored. It was quiet. Nobody was out there. So if you've been to Times Square in recent years, it's like, excuse me. You don't even say excuse me. You just go through, and it's like a person right here or on your neck walking through.
Yeah. As a person who lives in New York, except when I worked there like 10 years ago, I was working for Forever 21 in Times Square. If I didn't have a reason to go there, I would not Times Square. That is just not a place that I would go. So but it's totally on a homeless person was. What happened?
No, I said that Forever 21 is huge.
It's huge. But that was cool. But last night, a homeless person was telling me, because I came back from, was it last night or the night before? It was the night before, but I came back from out of town, and a homeless person was like, yeah, it's rough. They have the train shutting down at 1 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's never happened. So every night. So he was like, they usually sleep on the train. Now they have to find somewhere else to sleep. So it's kind of crazy, but riding the subway is different. Everything is just different now. So yeah.
It looks kind of like a ghost town.
It's a ghost town. Wow. It's a ghost town. When I came back, when it first started, the streets were empty, and I was just like, and it was early. It was only like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, there is no one on the street. And there really hasn't been. I mean, in my neighborhood, people have to do stuff. People have to go to the grocery store and stuff like that. You know, there's regulars that'll hang out and play dominoes or whatever it is they do. But there's really no one out. So.
Yeah, I mean, they say the city that never sleeps, but everybody's sleeping now. You know, everybody is indoors. Yeah, when you think about that, just think, if you put it in perspective and think about the billions of people in this world, you know, and then just the people in New York, and then you go through every state and then every country and then every little pocket of that country, everybody is doing the same thing pretty much.
Worldwide, like this is, I always said, like, it would take something not that big to shut New York City down. Like, if something happened to the internet, New York City wide or New York state wide, it would shut the city and state down. But like, I really didn't foresee something shutting the entire world down because everybody is home. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. But honestly, I don't know if it's selfish, but quarantine has been good for me for the most part.
Me too.
Yeah. Business is going great. Like, I have the time to do the things that I really want to do. You know, trying to stay on a consistent schedule is a little bit harder because when I have my full-time job, like, if I get off at this time, I know I'm going to be home by this time. I have this amount of time to do whatever it is I'm going to do for my business and then get ready for work tomorrow. So I had like a routine that I was doing every day, and I didn't realize how much my day job really kind of forced me to have this routine. But when you have, when's the last time you had 2 months to just be home doing whatever you want to do?
Right. Right.
So too many people who have really had that. I guess I did when I worked in film, because I might not work for a month or 2 months. So I would have to do my own stuff. But to just have it and not really have to do anything and force myself to stay motivated, to create, to do, you know, think of different business ideas and ways to generate income and, you know, things that I'm passionate about, it's kind of hard to stay focused. But, you know, I think I'm doing a pretty good job. So,
yeah, I definitely, you mentioned your film career a couple of times, and I want to get into that. But before I get into that, I want you to talk about, and you started talking about that a little bit, but I want you to talk about what this time means to a creative person, because you're extremely creative. Like, what does that day look like for a creative person? And what are some of the things that you've created during this time? Because I look at some of your stuff, I'm like, whoa. So what kind of things have you been working on?
Well, right now, I was already planning some things before this happened. So that kind of changed what my focus was. I had a series that I thought about doing for an event that I was supposed to do next month. Then this came, I knew I was going to have to push the event back. So I decided that there was a different series that I've been thinking about for years that I wanted to start on, which I posted one of the pictures of one that I started on. But really, like, I come up with plans for what I'm going to do painting wise, and then just kind of work it out actually painting it. So I've been working on that, but every day is kind of different, I think. I mean, it depends. I'm trying to make it so it's not different every day, but lately, the last couple of days, maybe the last 3 days, I've been getting up walking like a few miles. I haven't been on a good eating schedule, so that's something I got to change, but I walk. I'm Buddhist, so I'll get up and chant. And that really helps start my day because it makes me focus on something. Like, they're very specific. So you get to parts where it says, like, you know, this particular part, pray for something for yourself. This part, pray for your deceased relatives. This part, pray. So it forces you to focus on certain things. So that, for me, that's a good way to get my day started. And I can be on and off with that, but lately I've been on with it. So it's good because it helps me just zoom in. This is what I want to do for the day. I started writing in my journals again. So, you know, I can cross off whatever goals I set for the week. I'm not as strict with that as some people. I just write the goals down and they get done as they get done.
Right.
I don't think this is the goal for tomorrow. No, I just tick them off as I start to hit them. So that's pretty much how my day starts. And then what I do after that can transmorph into anything. I can start painting. I started a new venture, so I can start working on that and, you know, working on the social medias and building with that. Cheryl Underwood just like my page for my new venture.
Woo!
So I'm super excited.
You talking about the booty shot. Now this is not a regular booty shot. Like you painted that thing. Like that's the perfect booty. Did she like that one? And you guys have to go and she'll give you her handle so you can see what I'm talking about. Amazing.
The new thing is not related to my art. It's totally different. But I think she liked that page too. She's like 2 or 3 of my pages. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, but yeah, so that was good. But like the way my day can go can just change because I just have so much stuff going on and so many things that I'm trying to do. My main focus is my artwork, my painting, and whatever goes along with that. So I just try to do something every day, even if I just sit down and paint for 30 minutes. It might not seem like a lot, but like as you build up the days, 30 minutes, you know, translates to hours. So, you know, if you do something every day, even if it's 15 minutes, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, just get something done. And I just see the progression and I'm able to finish the projects that I start. So things can be random, but I do try to just focus on different times of the day. I might work a half hour here, an hour there, and just like clock the time I'm working to see how much I can get done in a certain amount of time, so that when it is time for someone to say, okay, I want you to paint this and I need it done in this time, I know I can get it done. So, you know, that's pretty much what I do throughout the day. I love to cook, so I cook every single day, like 2 or 3 times a day. So that's definitely always a part of my day. But that was always part of my day. Like I'm a homebody, so hasn't really. The only thing that's changed for me is not having somewhere to go every day, like a job, or you know, not having that interaction with people. Even though I'm not a huge people person, but just not having that interaction that you're used to can kind of be hard. But otherwise, like I like to be home. I pay a lot of money to live in the city, so I'm comfortable where I live. So this has just been a good time for me in a lot of ways. So
so when I think about you, it's hard to narrow it down to what you do, because even in your bio, you're an artist. You create jewelry, make jewelry. Just run it down so people can really know the extent of your creativity and everything she does. Y'all, I'm not just saying that, it's dope. She's extremely talented, truly.
Thank you. So,
and I don't know. I still want to get my painting, because remember, I commissioned a painting. I haven't forgotten. Yeah. I still have to talk to you about that. When I move, that's what I need you. Yeah.
So a friend of mine who passed away late last approached me on the street about working with him on some music, and he just said, do you do anything? Do you sing? Do you rap? Do you anything? And I was like, well, I sing. So we went and recorded some music, and he kind of tried to push me toward that, but it's never really what I wanted to do. So that didn't work out. But he always said, I don't know what to do with you. This was back in like the mid 90s, but he would always say, I don't know what to do with you because you do so many things that like he just didn't know. But like now I feel like everybody does everything, you know, like you can YouTube and figure out how to play an instrument or sing or dance or, you know, whatever. So like right now, what he told me in the 90s was like, I don't know what to do. That's common for everybody. But I think what I consider myself to do is a visual artist. Like that's my main thing, really what I do. But I feel like I'm just a creator. I just like to make things. So like I might want to paint this year, and next year I might want to make jewelry, and next year I might decide I want to learn to sew a little better so I can make clothes. Or I've made bags before. I do sing, so I sing background for people. So it just kind of, I don't know. I guess it just kind of depends on what's going on. Like a lot of times.
So who have you sang background? Who have you sang background for?
Most more underground and local artists, but I sang with Ladybug from Diggable Planets from back in the day. So I background for her for several years actually. That was a long run. But I sang for her.
I can see it.
That was a good time. But I sang for a rapper that I went to college with. who goes by Kel Spencer. I sang for a young lady that's like, she has a huge following and she's really dope. Honey La Rochelle, really dope singer. Anybody that know of her, look her up. Really good singer. And who else? Maybe one or two more random, like when I started singing Honey, like I met her one day, my friend told her I could sing, and like she taught me like 2 or 3 songs, and that night I sang background for her. So things like that kind of come about randomly, but
so you know that's how I was introduced to you. I don't know if you remember. You might have been like 14. Okay, so this is it. See, I told you she don't remember, but I do. I'm older than her and I remember. So let me tell you, so you were on the phone, I'm just gonna put it on out there because it's all about the truth. You were on the phone talking to my little brother who's in his 40s, go figure. And you were on the phone and he said, Kendell, this is Rashida and she can sing. And you were on the phone singing intro, Come Inside. Dude. And I was like, what do you know about that song? I was like, wait a minute. You were like 15. And I was like, and if anybody knows the song Come Inside by intro, if you don't, stream it. And she was a teenager. I was like, how did you know that song?
That is hilarious. That's so
and you were singing your little heart out on that phone because he told me to come listen. And that's when I was introduced to her, Rashida.
Hurts. Oh my God. That's perfect.
Yeah. So it is so funny. I can never forget that you sing. And I was going to ask you, do you still sing or have you sung on a professional level? So you just answered that. That's wow.
Yeah, I did, but like I would sing. I have a friend who's a music producer who wants to do some stuff with me, and my sister's a real singer in my family. So he wants us to do some stuff together, which I would totally do. Like my sister's an amazing songwriter, singer, like she had a music career a long time ago, but yeah, it's just not really my first thing, but I love to do it. So if an opportunity came up that was like some laid back,
that whole vibe, it had to be a vibe. It got to be a vibe.
Yeah, I would do it. So that's something to consider. I'd be a 40 plus pop star.
That's all right. That's all right because you still got your baby face, so it's all good. You know my saying is it's never too late to remix your life. So boo, if that's what you want to do, I'm coming. I gotta come see you.
I went for a job interview when I was in my early 20s, and they offered me a really little bit of money, but I had a really long interview with this really interesting lady, and it was her company, and she's like, I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to turn it down. And she was like, why? I said, honestly, I could go on the corner and sing and make that much money a year. And she was just like, she was like, you know what, that's good. Like sometimes you just have to reinvent yourself. And ever since then, like I can be doing the worst of the worst or what I think is the worst of the worst for me and be like, fuck it, I'm gonna just do this. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Gonna figure it out, so yeah.
So so when I think about you and then I just see you even just on social media, I haven't seen you physically since you were in college in Baltimore, but I see you all the time. You're doing your thing, I'm looking at you, some comments. And my daughter said that you friended her. She was like, Mom, do you know this person? And I was like, yes, I know this person. And yes, she's okay for you to follow. And she's a beautiful soul. I had to look, she came to check with me first.
That's like, why I sent the message because I don't.
But it was before she saw the message. So, but it was before she saw the message. Then she saw the message.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your career in wardrobe in the film industry. And when I think about that, I think about the amazing Ruth Carter. If you guys don't know who Ruth Carter is, you better look her up.
She's her speech.
Yeah. She's amazing. So when I think about that, so tell me what you did in the film industry as far as wardrobe, for those that may not understand what goes into that.
Yeah, so I I got into film. I'm gonna give a shout out to Made in New York PA training program. I was living downtown Brooklyn, and someone kept giving me this flyer, and so many people would give you flyers down there. You're like, oh, this is nonsense, and throw it away. So I finally was like, let me go. And I had worked on a film project or two before that, but it was just random. So I went, and it was like a month-long boot camp, and I started out as a production assistant, just like a general set or office production assistant. And I knew I wanted to either wardrobe or art department. And I just started looking for jobs, and wardrobe was the first thing that came up that someone hired me. And that's just what I stuck with. I have done some art department things like set decorator, and I did like some small like short films as a production designer, but mostly only wardrobe. I mainly worked as a wardrobe supervisor, and I worked mostly on independent lower budget films. So those departments are like a third of the size of a big budget film. Yeah.
So what does a wardrobe supervisor do? So what does that entail?
That depends on the budget of the job, because a wardrobe supervisor on a big budget job might just make sure everything is organized. Most of the jobs I worked on, I made sure everything was organized. I did product placement, which is someone else's job on a bigger budget film, which is getting free clothes and free products from different companies. I did a lot of that, which was super fun and rewarding because I didn't have to buy clothes. And then sometimes I was the set. I did everything on some of these jobs as a wardrobe supervisor. I would have to be like the set person. I would have to be a seamstress, so it just, anything that came along with whoever wasn't the costume designer, like it would be a job where the only people on the job were me and the costume designer. So anything that needed to be done, both of us had to do it. So anything you can think of that wardrobe entails, like I might spend a day just distressing clothes to dress bums all day. So your skill set just kind of changed every day when you're on those type of films with like the huge budget to be able to have a 10-person film. Because on a bigger budget, you hire people who their only job is to just make clothes look bummy all day or make clothes look a certain way, and that's it. So so it kind of ran the gamut of what I actually did.
Okay, and that sounds super fun.
It was a lot of fun. Oh no, it was a lot of fun. Like it was rough on those films because people look at film in general as just like a glamorous thing, but like when you're on these lower budget movies, and some lower budget movies can still have a pretty big budget in the grand scheme of budget, but what you have to work with is just still a lot. So time is money, everything is fast, if you can't figure stuff out really quick and just like move on to the next thing, like you wouldn't last doing what I did in film. Like you have to just be on it all day long.
It seems like you have been able to explore your artistic freedom. Like you've done a lot of things in the artistic, the creative realm. And I think that that's so important, and it's crucial for a creative person to be multifaceted and to be able to explore in different areas of creativity. I think it almost is a matter of life or death if you can't really express yourself in that way. Do you agree?
I definitely agree, because even outside of just me being an artist and making my own artwork, there are some artists who live by the theory that like if you're an artist and you do anything like get a day job, like you're not a real artist. I'm sorry, but I like to eat good. I like to eat good food. I like to look cute and stuff. So I don't subscribe to that. I have a certain life that I like to live, but as long as what I'm doing for a job is also creative, like that works for me.
Feed your soul, as long as your soul is fed in some type of way.
So like now, I absolutely love my job now, but like to have a job that I love and then also be able to do what I love on my own at home is just like the perfect combination.
Yeah. Because your job now, you're a visual display artist. for one of the largest toy companies. And when I told my daughters who you worked for, I don't know if you want to say, but who you worked for, she was like, what? Because I'll just give you a hint. Every girl loves this product, this toy product. That's all I'm going to say. If she wants to tell you, but you're a visual.
I don't, sorry, the only reason I don't want to say the company is because it's a public place and I just don't, you never know. You know what I mean? So some like working in retail without like somebody interviewing me on the show, I'm always like, yo, if somebody comes in here, like it's easy to kind of just find somebody that works in that retail industry. So that's the only reason I say, but I love my company during this quarantine. They have been awesome. You know, they care about their employees. So that's good, or at least they've shown me that they care about this particular employee. So it's good to have that in the workplace as well. So.
Yeah, but that's a blessing. But you're a visual display artist, and I've seen some of your things once again online. But could you let the viewers know what that is and what you do at this toy company?
Okay, so it's totally different at this toy company than it was at like the other the clothing brands that I worked for. Obviously clothes is different, like you're styling and you're, you know, doing a different thing. So with the toys
for the display windows. You're talking about for the display windows, right?
Yeah. So like with the toys, it's completely different than it was with clothes, because one, you're catering to a different audience, and two, it's toys. So like I pretty much feel like I'm playing all day, but like we also do the in-store displays. So that's more of my day-to-day job, is dealing with the in-store displays. But it's a toy store, so the kids come in and play with the toys. So every single day we have to make the store look like it's just a brand new store. So that's a part of it. We have to comb the doll's hair. It's a doll store, so we have to comb the doll's hair. You have to make sure they're dressed right, and there's nothing on their clothes, and you know, just make sure they look like it's a brand new store.
So but you play with dolls. So you play with dolls all day? You play with dolls all day?
All day, basically. But my favorite part of the job, one of my favorite parts of the job is when we get to the window displays. It's a lot of putting different things together. So like, this is the first retail company I worked for where an actual visual manager is creating the window displays. So like it's a lot of planning, and I've fallen into a role of making like these wigs out of paper, which is a fun thing for me to do because it really lets me bring out my creative side. So I don't know, visual merchandising, this is another job that can run the gamut, because when I worked for a company, I can say this because I don't work there anymore, but I worked for H&M a long time ago, and it's fashion. They already have a lot of the props pre-made. So like you're not really designing anything. You're just taking what they send you and making it look nice for whatever space you have it to go in. You might have to construct things and put it together, but I'm not actually making physical things. Like I'm making things from scratch at the company I work for now. Whereas if I worked for a company maybe like Urban Outfitters, I see their window displays and I can tell, as immaculately as it's done, a lot of that stuff is done by hand. Whereas a Bergdorf might send their stuff to a fabricator, someone designs it, they get someone else to fabricate it to put in the window. And then you're dealing, like, I want to get to a level, if I stay in this industry, where like I'm the person going to the vendors to get this stuff made. You know what I mean? So because with the wigs, you know, another company, a higher end company, or, you know, just a different company might do what I do and send it to a fabricator to get made, as opposed to having one of their in-house employees do it. So it just depends on what part of retail you work in to know what your role is actually going to be. And like if I went to another company, there's a whole skill set I might need to learn with them that I've never used before, you know, so it can change.
Yeah. So when I think about F.I.T, and our viewers probably, they think about F.I.T as one of the most prestigious design schools in the country. So what was that experience like, first getting in and then, you know, going through the courses and of course graduating? What was that experience like in your life?
Well, I transferred to F.I.T from an historically Black college that just didn't have the resources at that time. This is 1996 for my major. And one of my schoolmates at that school told me, like, why didn't you go to F.I.T? And I'm not from New York. So I'm like, what is the F.I.T? And I looked into it. I was like, oh, the tuition even out of state is really low. Because I think right now, out of state tuition for a semester is under like $5,000 a semester.
Really?
Like, it's really cheap. Yes.
Really?
People, that's a hidden gem that people don't know about. It's just that so many people try to get in that it's hard to get in. So, yeah, so I looked into it. I did a portfolio. I remember all the projects I did for the portfolio. It was like a self-portrait. Then you had to do something with like dimensions. And I did like a landscape or something, but it was like coming out at you. And I think there was one other one that I actually don't remember. But I sent that in, and I was at my other school on academic scholarship. And not only did F.I.T accept me, but they gave me a scholarship to go there. So so that was awesome.
Wow.
I was like, pay to go there, but like back then they didn't really have a lot of dorm space, so I had to work. I had to work to live in the city, which was really hard. But
Yeah.
I learned more in the first summer that I started there than I did in 2 years at my other college. So I had gotten, once I got my associate degrees, I still was like on the dean's list. And I worked, it was just like a double-edged sword because I loved what I was doing in school, but I worked 5 days a week, a full-time job. I went to school 7 days a week. I went summer, winter, fall, spring, the whole year around just to finish. And so it was a little stressful, but I'm glad for the experience. Nobody ever cared that, like, for a long time, like a lot of people don't know this about me, but for a long time, I felt bad that I only got my associate degree. Like, that's nothing. Nobody cares about that. But like no job I've ever had cared. The only thing they cared about was that I got into F.I.T because a lot of people can't get in. So they really didn't care what my major is. I've worked for home furnishing companies with like a curtain designer. Like I've had so many jobs that I'm like, I have no experience and I'm not qualified for nothing. They just were like, oh, you F.I.T. Like,
Wow.
okay. So it was awesome. And I think with all my scholarships, and I got one loan that needed to be paid back. I paid $500 for my associate degree.
Wow. So I'm telling y'all, she's talented. She said it's difficult to get into F.I.T, and she got in. She talked about what she had to do to get in, what she had to submit. And she said she's gotten jobs based off of her talent and based off of just going there. So I hope you take a lesson from that. I don't want you to limit yourself. And Rashida said that at first she was, I got an associate's, that's nothing. But it doesn't matter what you have. It's your talent that can take you through and your connections. Really, that's what it's about. So I don't want anybody to say, well, I just have a high school diploma. I just have associates. I just have a bachelor's. No, because what's for you is always going to be for you. And she's talented. And she got in, and now she is living her life as she wants to, being a creative person. I think that's so dope that you're able to be free in that way, and still you're able to work for someone, for a company, and you're still using your creative skills. You're still doing that. And then outside of that, in your personal space, in your personal time, which you have now, you're still able to create. So I want to talk about Proud. You creating Proud. Again, tell the viewers what it stands for and why you decided and why you felt it on your heart to create such a wonderful organization or movement.
Thank you. So Proud stands for Positive Reinforcements on Urban Display. And how it came about is super random. But I kept seeing this place called Divas for Social Justice. And I'm like, what is this for social justice? So they were never open. Like the building, the lights were off, it was always closed. So I'm like, okay. And I just happened to be sitting in front one day, and the building was open and they were having an event. Yeah. And I went and asked what it was. And it's DIVA stands for Digital Interactive Visual Art Sciences. So it's a community organization where they promote getting the community involved in social justice activities, but through digital arts and media. So they have like all these different things you can do. But when I talked to the woman, when I realized it was a youth program, I was like, oh, I've worked with youth for over a decade. So like, I'm interested in volunteering. And she takes me to I had no designs at this point on creating a community program, but she takes me to the director of the program, and I tell her, what I want to do. And she's like, what's your experience? And I just tell her a few things. Like, I worked with the City of Philadelphia Mural Arts Program and worked on murals in Philly and taught kids in Philly, juvenile justice system. But she was really impressed, but just by the few things I said, and was like, oh, well, send me an email. She's like, well, would you want a job with us? And I'm like, well, if I can work it out with my day job, definitely. So she's like, well, think of some ideas of programs you would want to do, because it could be anything. Like, this is that's her own personal thing, and it can be anything. So I came up with 3 ideas based on the industries that I worked in. And one of them was going to be graphic design, where we come up with like a flyer or poster for some type of event or something like that related to a social justice issue, and teach the kids graphics. And then the other idea was to do a PSA and have them film and edit a video about some social justice issue as a PSA. Then the last idea was to do, because the space has a large window in it, and I do window displays. So I'm like, maybe we can create a window display to not only promote the space and what you do, but we could promote a social justice issue or Black history or anything like that in the form of a window display. She just happened to love that idea. So that's what we ended up doing. Yeah.
Wow. So, and then also you have Analog
Art NYC. Yeah, that's my personal, just whatever I do artistically, whether it's jewelry, painting, whatever I do artistically goes on Analog Art NYC. That's my Instagram handle, Analog Art NYC, Instagram, Twitter. So that's just my personal artwork as an artist. Yeah, and then my new venture is Kente Couture, which I
started, once again, dope. I mean, I'm telling you, I was like, oh, I want those earrings. You were like, they're sold. I'm like, oh, I need this. They're sold. I'm like, can I get something from Rashida Johnson? Can I please, baby, please.
Yeah, but that one, I was just about buying this kente cloth for my artwork, and then I realized I can sell it. It's hand woven kente cloth from Ghana. So I'm working on helping this young man sell his kente cloth and other garments that him and his friends and his people make out in Ghana. So I really like the connection. I want to go to Ghana. So this is like a perfect connection for me. And that's been going well so far. So I'm just excited about everything I have going on.
You do. So I need my my kente fanny pack or belt bag, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it both, but I want it, whatever you call it. I got some earrings. I want my artwork when I move. I'm a commission to that. I talked about the toy company. I want something prepared. I think every time you post something, I'm like, I want it.
I hope more people feel like that. So
absolutely. And hopefully after this, where I'm here, introducing you and really talking about all of your dopeness, your flyness, and what you do, I think it's just really amazing. And I'm not just saying that because I have the pleasure of knowing you. I mean, you guys, you can just go on her Instagram and see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so that painting that I was talking about earlier, I'm sure you have something more tasteful that you call it other than the booty shot. But, that's all you see. But it's beautifully made, I guess, if you will, beautifully created. So
well, they might get worse than that. So, yeah, this series, some of them are going to be more subtle. Some of them you might be like, oh.
So I'm going to put my journalism hat on. So what was the thoughts behind that piece? What invoked that emotion? What made you think?
I've been wanting to do a more erotic series for years. I don't want it to be like super raunchy, but like very sensual, very sexual in whatever way. I actually had to move away from the pictures I was originally going to use as reference, because that would have even been too much for me right now. But a friend of a friend had some new photos that was like, you can use these as reference. And they're just kind of subtle. I mean, I didn't make the bodies look exactly how they look in the picture. I just really used those reference pictures to get the proportions and the dimensions of the pose.
Yeah.
But you know, for that particular one, like I wanted a really nice butt for some reason, but I want to show like how a woman can be sensual and sexual, but it's not raunchy. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Even
it's
if
not. It's definitely not raunchy.
new
You're
body,
absolutely right.
unless you're a super prude, you can't really look at that and say like, oh, that's just disgusting. You know what I mean? Like the woman isn't even in the real color of anyone's skin. Like she's just,
it's like an orange color.
it's like orange, you know what I mean? The next one is going to be like purple, you know? So
wow.
So it's not even, I don't know. I feel like people get so up in arms about like nudity and different things like that. And like, it's just a body, you know, it's just like muscle tissue and mammary glands and things like that. So I feel like I want people to have paintings like this in their living room or bedroom and it not be like a big deal, you know?
Yeah. Because, you know, you're absolutely right, Rashida. It's not raunchy. It's very tastefully done. I mean, the colors and the contour and just the whole vibe of it. When I was scrolling, because at first I didn't know it was you, and I was scrolling, and I was like, oh, and I looked and I saw analog art, NYC, and I said, Rashida. And but it's tastefully done. It's beautiful. You don't see the face. You don't see, it's like the torso, if you will, and the behind. But so you use a photo to kind of create the picture, just the stance and the whole, but not really, it's not someone's booty.
It's not, I mean, if you looked at that body, you would have to see you would have to actually see that picture to know, like you wouldn't know it's the same person, because I didn't necessarily get all her, you know, woman curves and different like that. I really just see the pose. Like I really would prefer if I could always draw bodies with someone standing in front of me, because you can really just see like the shadows and everything, that you can see things that you can't really see in pictures. So
from
life drawing
eye, from artistic eye.
Versus like looking at it in a picture. So like I was watching some not really a documentary, it was short, but about like a school of people out in Italy somewhere, and they only draw like real live people. They won't draw from a picture. They won't paint from a picture. It's like a class that you can go out there and take to like paint directly from the actual people all the time. So so yeah, it just gives me the proportions of what I need to say, like this is what an arm looks like when it's bent this way, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So tell the viewers
so she
what you're working on. So I know you said you have a series of artwork. I know, I'm sorry, virtually it's kind of, you know, a little lapse. But and this is her first time on this platform, so I'm so glad that you did it. I think you do an amazing job. But I know you said that you're working on this whole series. What else are you working on?
Right now, I have another series that I want to start after this, and that one is based on like African art. I have a couple of books here that I saved from college. It's only 2 books that I saved from college that I got from the museum, and one is Art from the Baga, which is a region in like West Africa, and one that's just called like Black Africa, which has different regions in Africa. But I want to take just different sculptures and different art pieces that they do that mean different things, and create new ones for myself. You know what I mean? Like totems. I don't really know how to explain it, but things that mean something to me, I want to make my own versions of that in painting form. So that's one that I want to do. And then, like I said, just pushing forward with this Kente Couture thing. It's really like, I posted one thing, everybody already, like, I'm sold out and I haven't even got the product yet. So that's awesome.
I know, because I was late to the party. It was sold out when I think you like telling me it's sold out. I mean, you told me that so many times. I'm like, I'm slow on the intake. Maybe I need to, that's what I need to do. I need to hit the notification button when you, so I'm notified the minute you post, because so I can be, in there with everybody else, on that first wave. But I'm still waiting for mine. I'm patient.
Yeah, I got more coming, so don't worry.
Definitely. Well, hopefully I am on the top of that list, so don't sell out again.
So you'll be good.
All right. So as we wrap up, I want you to describe Rashida. How would you describe yourself?
A lot. I'm such a random person. I've been called random with like a sneer, and I'm like, I like being random. I feel like just as a person, not even as an artist, I feel like if I put my mind to it, besides web coding, I just couldn't get certain things. That language doesn't speak to me. Besides that, I feel like me and everyone else can do anything that they put their mind to. So that's a huge part of how I think every day. Like, I don't care what it is, I can do it. I'm funny. People think I'm funny. Pretty generous, cool, laid back. I have my days where I'm not the nicest, but other than that, I just think I'm a well-rounded, just kind of all-around person.
Okay. So now I say, we're going to set the record straight. Sometimes I say Rashida. Sometimes I say Rashida. What do you prefer?
Rashida.
Rashida.
Yes.
Right. And the reason why I asked you that, because I said, I think I call her Rashida, but I usually say Rashida. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. This is Rah Johnson. I think I watched a couple of episodes of Love and Hip Hop and got messed up because she says Rashida.
I accept Rashida, but my mom calls me Rashida. So yeah, that's what I go with. Yeah.
And that's what I was calling you. And I said, and I don't even watch that often, but when I keep hearing that name, Rashida, and I was like, no, she likes Rashida. So that's what I wanted to ask you. Yeah, because she does go by Rah Johnson, so that makes sense. So, Mom, I'm gonna make sure I say it right, because I slipped a couple of times, but I know that this is Rashida. So I definitely had to correct myself on that. Now, some people might say Rashida, but she goes by Rashida, and her mother should know.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So do you know what's going on as we wrap up? Have you heard any word when you may go back to work, or do you think that 2020 is canceled? What's your view?
I think that maybe, just judging from what's going on in the city, I would say maybe like July, but I really can't call it. Like, we're on furlough until the 31st of this month. So maybe next week we should be hearing something about if they're going to extend that. They have to extend it because they extended the opening date for the city until June 6th, which I don't think is going to happen. So I'm thinking more like mid-July, but yeah, I really can't.
Yeah. See, I'm in Maryland, as you know, and I'm pretty upset that they said that by the end of this weekend, they're going to try to open up Maryland again. And I don't feel good about that. And I'm not going out there. I'm not believing the hype. You see what happened in Georgia when they opened that back. People were losing their minds. I'm like, you don't need to get your hair done, your nails done. Fall back and just quarantine. Just because outside is opening up in your area, even if you're listening in Maryland, chill. Like, still quarantine yourself, because just because it opens back up, it doesn't mean that you have to flood the stores and they're going to try to social distance. But I don't think people really understand the severity and really what social distancing is. Like, some people don't have a mask on, they don't have gloves. Like, I'm out there, or I got my mask, I got my gloves on. My husband was laughing. He said, "You kind of rude. You be dodging people." I'm like, as soon as I see somebody, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. And he laughed so hard because I'm just like,
it's It's a new world. It's a brand new world.
Absolutely. But I want to thank you so much for being my guest on Kendell Lenice Live. I'm so happy that I got a chance to see your beautiful face.
Yeah, too.
So once again, I want you to tell everyone how they can get in contact with you if they want to buy one of your art pieces, if they just want to connect with you. Tell them how they can do that.
The best place to go for my artwork is www.analogartnyc.com. That's ANALOGARTNYC.com. It's also, you can reach me at Analog Art on Instagram, Twitter. I have an Analog Art NYC Facebook. So any of those platforms is cool. Like, those are the easiest ways to reach me. Everything will pretty much come to my email. So it really doesn't matter which way. Analog Art NYC, and you can actually reach all of my other ventures through there. The Kente Couture, all the other things I'm doing are linked to those pages. So.
All right. So in 2021, I'm coming to Brooklyn and I'm coming to see you.
Yes.
With everything open. So that maybe I can just, see everything in person, because if it's beautiful, like I said, online, I know in person it has that wow factor, because it has that already online. All right, everybody, this is Rah L.Johnson. You know I know. I've known her for many, many years. I told you how I was introduced to her. And I also got a chance to see that dorm room in Maryland that she talked about earlier. So needless to say, I'm pleased with the outcome of this beautiful woman and all the amazing things that she's done and that she will continue to do. I don't want anyone out there to allow age or education or background to stop you from living your dreams. If you're not currently living your dreams now and you're unhappy, it's up to you to change that and fix that. Because again, it's never too late to remix your life. All right, Rashida, say bye to the people.
Bye, thank you.
You're welcome. Remember, you're a star, so don't allow anyone to dim your shine. God bless. Peace.